Okay.
Welcome everyone to the Personalized Learning webinar series. First, we'd like to thank Steve Hargadan and Classroom 2.0 for hosting our webinar series. And we'd also like to thank Peggy George, who is here with us today, for all of her assistance in making our webinar series possible. We will be archiving this recording in a blog on our site, and we'll also try to get it out there for everybody. But you can get to our site. It's www.personalizedlearning.com. We are really honored to have the Inquiry Hub team here with David Truss and an amazing group of learners. He already put in all the names of everyone, but you're going to meet them soon. They're going to share their experiences in driving their own learning. You know, we've written about the Inquiry Hub, we've talked about it, but you know, there's nothing like having kids tell us from their point of view what it really is like. So what we'd like you to do is use the chat for questions and comments, and then the kids said that they're going to try to answer all the questions at the end. So it is time now to turn over the controls to you, Dave, and the Inquiry Hub team.
Thank you very much. As mentioned, I'm Dave Truss, and I'm the lead administrator here at the Inquiry Hub. And just a little bit of background before we get started. The school started last year. I still remember the day that Stephen Whiffen, the principal, when we started, came and drove to the site where I was at the Adult Learning Center and said, so I pitched a new school to our superintendent. And it was a pretty exciting time. We started looking around trying to find warehouses to put this place in, and we ended up going into an old elementary school, which is pretty well designed for us. Our current principal is Sarah Husband, and she's in charge of about, several schools as part of LINC, the Learning Innovations Network Coquitlam, as part of our school district. And so I'm the lead administrator, meaning I'm the one in the building that does a lot of the affairs for day-to-day, but really it's the teachers that do a lot of the hard work, and as we progress, the students are getting to do even more work than the teachers, which is the way it should be. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. This is really about us having an opportunity to showcase some of what our students are doing. I'll give you a quick introduction. We have Shauna, Sophia, and Hannah, who are all second-year students here at the Inquiry Hub. They are our inaugural grade 9s. And this year we have Joey and Joshua, who are just getting going and trying things out and learning the ropes. And it's great to get sort of a sense from both students who have been here before and also students who just arrived just a few short months ago. So I'm going to pass it over, and we're going to get started with Sophia, who's going to go through the introduction of how things start out on our typical day.
So most mornings we have class time, and this is where we can have anything from a math lesson to a fishbowl discussion, whatever our teachers think will help us most. Usually they're divided by grades, so the grade 10s could have a science class while the grade 9s have a social studies class. Some days, though, we have a class that includes everybody. For example, I Have Reads, which is an English project where you choose a book, analyze it, create a book trailer, and come up with an argument about why your book should be on the student reading list. Then we present in small groups, and it gets narrowed down to one book and that you are recommended to read.
And we actually call those topical workshops instead of classes. And sometimes they're cross-curricular depending on the topic and what the teacher is trying to do. Next we have Hannah.
So after we start off our morning with a workshop, we go into Learning Commons times, which involves the use of our online Moodle site, which we started off with it as a base, and then our teachers can go in and edit it and take away some of the course material and add course material. So they can base it on what students need and what they covered in the topical workshops. So we know, so it helps us understand what they're doing, and it backs up their topical workshops. And as school progresses and as we go through many years of iHub, the Moodle site will continue to get edited and grow with us.
And now we'll have Shauna continue with some of our learning spaces.
In our Learning Commons environment, it's when we do our coursework on a Moodle site, like Hannah was saying. We do that either in groups or individually, depending what you're working on, and that's where we're in our Commons. As you can see on the photos, it's movable, and we move it and manipulate it to what suits best for us for what we do that day. Also, this time is when we can talk to our teachers about where we are, if we need help in certain areas, and how well we are getting through our courses. Every afternoon we have dedicated inquiry time. This is where we develop our inquiry questions. We explore our inquiry questions, and depending what our question is, we are either experimenting, building, or creating something.
So that's what our days kind of look like. Now we're going to look at individual projects, and students are going to tell you about some of the inquiry projects that they are currently working on. This is Joey who's going to get us started.
Yeah. So I started off this year coming in and thinking, I want to take apart a small block 350 Chevy engine, and I found someone who had a common interest with me on that. So we went to Mr. Truss and asked him if we could do that and use an area at the school. And he told us that we should probably start a bit smaller. So Chloe and I decided that we were going to take apart a lawnmower engine, as you can see in the pictures. And we brought in a lawnmower, pulled it off the base, and we pulled apart the engine. And we were going to see if we could make it more efficient and how it ran. We went through the teardown, and we were not able to put it back together because we were missing parts. So we finished off that inquiry, and now I've gone on to building a wrist-mounted computer, which I've spent about 3 weeks working on it now, and I have all the electronics ready to go. It's working. I just have a couple electronic errors that I have to sort out. That'll be done within 2 days, and then I'll just have a 3D printed case to put together, and I will have myself a wrist-mounted computer.
And you have a question, and it says, do you have to write a proposal for your project, or do you have an advisor or mentor to help you?
I don't really have to write a proposal. I more just look towards teachers and stuff if I need help. But if I'm looking for an advisor or mentor, I can always ask my father or Chloe's father, who work in the business of cars all the time. And my father also works with electronics a lot of the time, so he can help me out there as well.
And as we progress through the year, and through courses, there are times when they will have to write proposals, especially when we get into something called IDSs, or Independent Directed Studies. And next, we have Josh, who's going to tell us a little bit about a couple of his inquiries.
Yeah, so back when I was about 10 years old, I found out that there's an application that Google offers called Google Finance that lets you play around with virtual stock investing. So I did that for about 3 years now, and just about a year ago, though, I started to find it very interesting. And I find it quite neat how you can research all these neat companies, and also the fact that you can I find it quite fun, but the fact that you can also actually potentially make real money off of it. So I started a inquiry project off of that. seeing how the media can affect these companies and how and I find so far that the media has actually quite a large effect on them. So that's interesting. And then in a completely unrelated inquiry, I decided that I was going to take a glider and mount a camera on it. And this is a UAV. So this I'm going to use a cell phone camera and use data to use a live feed off of the cell phone, and that's going to be an electronics project.
Thank you, Josh. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little step back in time to one of our original projects that we started, and it is Shauna who's going to get us started with the story of our garden inquiry.
Last year for my first inquiry, I applied for a $5,000 grant from World Wildlife Foundation. That was in October, and then this time last year we received notice that we were accepted for that grant, and that is when we began planning our garden. We planned it for April 26th, is when we decided to have our community project day, and that is where we invited everyone from our school community, around our community, and our parents from our school community to help and join us for a barbecue and to build the garden. That day we built 6 beds, and we filled them with 20 yards of soil and 3 yards of gravel. And we also planted 2 apple trees. But we did come across many issues during the garden planning. So one of them were, if we wanted to do the garden, we'd have to find a way to look after it, because the district did not want us abandoning it after a while. So our solution for that was during the summer we would try and get more community involvement. This past summer it did not work as well as we hoped, but we have plans and stuff to change to get that better.
I think that garden day was one of the highlights for many of the people here at the Inquiry Hub, and it was great to see how the entire community got involved in helping to make that day a success. Moving forward from last year's garden inquiry, it's still continuing, and we're going to look at year 2, and Sophia is going to get us started with what they're doing around hydroponics and aquaponics.
This year, Shauna and I have decided to start our first IDS, and that is about hydroponics and aquaponics. And aquaponics is growing plants in water that are connected. It's connected to a fish tank that will provide nutrients for the plants, and the plants provide nutrients for the fish. So to start off this IDS, we decided to learn as much about this topic as we could. So we started a presentation just for ourselves to keep track of information, finding out what we needed to buy for this inquiry, what kind of stuff we needed to know. And then just recently, we started to build and construct our aquaponics system. And this system is stationary, just sitting on a table. And it's going pretty well. There's a few problems. The first problem that we've come across recently is that we're going on winter break soon, and the plants that we've begun to grow will still need to be looked after. So we started to construct a portable aquaponics system, and that right now is just a bucket and some trays on top, and it works, but we're going to try and find some ways to make that better.
That's great. So what thank you very much. What I'd like to do right now is just take a few minutes to ask each of these students 3 key questions, and then open it up for everyone to ask questions as they wish. So first of all, I'm going to ask them about their reason for coming to the Inquiry Hub. And who's going to get us started? Sophia.
So my main reason for coming to the Inquiry Hub was the flexibility in you can work on your courses when you want to, for how long you want, and it's self-paced, so it's a lot better for me than regular school because you can take longer on a project if you need it, or you can speed through the projects that you find really easy.
Next is Hannah.
My reason for coming to iHub was to explore my different interests in ways that would be engaging and beneficial to me in the real world, and be helpful in my coursework and in a way that I could apply it to my coursework. So while doing things that interest me, also get ahead in the coursework.
And Joey?
My reason for coming to the Inquiry Hub was based more on the technology aspect of how you can use your computer all the time for all your work, because since grade 6 I've been using a laptop, and I feel like this is the way I like to work, and this is how I feel that I should be working.
And Josh?
So I came to the Inquiry Hub because I like the idea that it can be very challenging. So instead of just doing one course in every month, you can do like 1 to 2 portions of a course and finish one of your courses in two months or something if you work really hard at it. And I find it quite neat that if you work really hard, you can finish your courses faster. So that means that if I finish them really fast, I can have another 3 months at the end of the year to do whatever I want.
And you're working towards that. Which courses are you ahead in right now?
I'm fairly far ahead in social studies and math.
And Shauna?
The reason I decided to come to the school is because it's a bit of everybody that just said their reasons, as well as a normal school was really hard for me because you had strict deadlines, and also many teachers weren't as open as I hoped they would be to using technology, and technology was a tool that I really needed because of my learning differences than others. So, yeah.
And it can be quite challenging. There are quite a few questions about meeting common standards and so on. A lot of our courses are still offered through online courses that sort of cover a large part of what's the required parts of the courses that need to be covered. So that's still a piece that we're trying to improve, as Hannah had mentioned, that right now those courses weren't designed for the Inquiry Hub. They were designed for online learners that really do a lot of projects, a lot of assignments in order to get their course done. And we're trying to slowly have our teachers, like I said, I still think we're new, and the teachers are working as hard or harder than the students. But they're working hard to reduce that by combining ideas and to thinking about bigger themes and having students do projects during their topical workshops that cover off the curriculum so that they have more time for their inquiry. I can talk more about how we give them credit for inquiry a little later, but right now I'd like to look at the biggest challenges that they have, and we're going to start with Josh this time.
So my biggest challenge for this program is that you have to be very disciplined to make sure that you get all your coursework completed. Because if you start not doing your work on certain days because you're tired, the fact that it's completely up to you to finish your courses and your teachers won't really force you to do anything means that you can get far behind. So you have to work quite hard to stay at the pace of the course.
And Hannah?
For me, the hardest thing was learning how to learn to fail and being okay with failing, which is hard because in middle school it was so drummed into us that we were supposed to fail, that failing was always bad, and to get into that mantra of learning from failing and failing can be a positive experience was really hard, but I think we're genuinely learning that failing can be a learning experience.
And I guess Sophia?
The hardest thing for me about being at the Inquiry Hub, I think, is learning to use my time effectively and realizing that you need to get all your work done by the end of the year. So you have to figure out the balance of work at school, homework, and also giving yourself time to relax.
And now Joey.
One of the biggest challenges I've had this year, been seeing this year, is that it's self-paced, in that you have to go in thinking, I know what I have to do today, and I have to go and make all this stuff happen on a certain deadline that you give yourself. And there's no one to push you saying, you have to finish this by this date, or else you will get this wrong. You have to get it done on your own. That is the biggest challenge that I've been seeing.
I think one thing too is we have some very motivated students here, and I'm not going to say who, but it's not necessarily that they're all A students. They have some challenges and some courses that they're stronger in and weaker in. The idea though is that I think we have some of the more motivated students here, and so we do challenge, and there are teachers, some of our teachers are pushing certain students and giving them the deadlines and making sure that they're following up, because some students need more support. These students are taking it on themselves, and they obviously feel one of the biggest challenges is taking that responsibility on for themselves. Let's get to a little more fun and lighthearted about what they actually enjoy about the Inquiry Hub, and we will start with, does it matter? No? Let's go with Shauna.
Thing I enjoy most about the iHub is you get more of a real life experience. You have to go out and do stuff by yourself. There's the courses, but you also need to tie it in with your inquiry and actually go out, find other people in the world that know stuff about what you're doing or have similar interests, and communicate with them. Yep.
I'm Sophia, and the thing that I most like about iHub is being able to learn more about topics that really interest me and expanding on them more.
Joey, and what I enjoy most about the iHub is that you learn the way you want to learn and what you want to learn. So if you wanted to figure out how a car works, you can go and do that. If you want to figure out how you could take a MP3 player, old computer, and some other random electronic scraps and make something really cool out of it, you can do that and create what you want, the way you want to learn, how you want to learn.
Who else is still to go? Josh?
So my favorite part of the school is that it's something that people can actually enjoy. So for me in middle school, I found it more something like a chore to actually go through school, but for this school I actually find it quite enjoyable, and I actually want to go and do stuff here. But for people who are trying to learn, I find it's a lot better if you're actually engaged in what you're learning instead of just doing something because somebody told you to.
I'm Hannah, and for me it's being in such a small community and having access to teachers a lot of the day because they're not teaching classes all the time. And they're able to answer your questions more thoughtfully and make sure you fully understand it. And you get the feeling that they actually care about your success. You're just not another name they have to assign a letter grade to.
And that's basically it. We've had a few questions about assessment. We use the points of inquiry. I shared a link with it, points of inquiry, as sort of our inquiry model theory. It's the best model that we were able to find as educators along with the teachers, because a lot of inquiry models are designed around the idea of having some sort of cycle or spiral or something like that where there's an order. And the points of inquiry has 5 points: connect and wonder, investigate, construct, express, and reflect. But what the students quickly learn is that you can learn about them in a certain order, but you don't follow them as you are doing your inquiries, because you connect and wonder about an idea, you start to investigate it. Before you even construct it, you start to connect and wonder about something else. When you do construct it, it probably won't work if it's something that is really big and epic that you're trying to do. And oftentimes you start your reflection and maybe go back to investigate more, and you still haven't expressed and shown your learning in very many ways. One area we're trying to improve on is the idea of sharing their learning out loud and getting to use our blogs and our online learning spaces a little better. But that's been a slow growth for us, but we're happy with where we're headed. And we do have some rubrics that we use for their inquiry, and really we're just tweaking those and still trying to make things better as we go with those. Now I leave it to you to ask questions, so I'll hand over the mic, and feel free to ask a specific student something, or if you want, just throw the question out and I'll see who is willing over on this end. Thank you.
Dave, there's a lot of questions that were already asked, so I'm not sure if we go back and go through some of them. You can turn on your mic for a second.
Yep, that's okay.
Rita asked a lot about assessment, so you said that, so I might have Rita be able to join in when we get to that. But she did ask, what do you do if students really don't have a project idea?
Does anyone want to answer that?
The teachers, it's Shauna. The teachers kind of give you ideas on things that they think you may find interesting, and kind of open your idea on giving you something to explore on. May not be in your interest, but then at least you know that it's not in your interest, or you find something that's connected that is more in your interest. A lot of our students, they do something and they end up not liking it, and now they've found something that they do like. So yeah.
It's Hannah, and I think a lot of not many students come here without a kind of an idea of what they want to learn, because people who come here want to learn, and they come here because they want to learn about what they want to learn about. And I think that's one of the really important aspects.
Feeding off of what Shauna said, I know that two of the really neat projects that happened last year were around slime mold. One of them with people trying to get slime mold to go around a maze, and another one who started dyeing its food. And every time she did an experiment to test what would happen, it developed a new question for her, and she would go ahead and pursue that even further. And none of these, the first group or that other student, they really didn't have an interest in slime mold. It was about a 3-minute clip in a documentary that a teacher showed that ended up leading them into that. So we do try to do a broad array of different things. We have a teacher now, Mr. Cleary, who's currently once a week he's having topical discussions about related to science and related to current events that are happening right now, where they have a sort of a U-shaped debate where people can change their stance on ideas. And it's totally optional event, but it's something that is spurring on a lot of interest, I think. Any other questions?
Yeah, Dave, there's a few, and I thought I'd just kind of combine them. But several people were wondering if they come up with a project, and you said they may or may not have a proposal, but who funds funds it if it takes that they need to purchase a lot of things for the project?
That's a good question. For the slime mold's a great example that I already used, because there was a we had to buy what's it called? An incubator, and so that costs a fair bit of money, but that's something that can be used by all students. What we've formatted, and we're really just getting this underway, but we have a way for students to get a PAC, that's Parent Advisory Committee grant. And so we've created an internal grant system where students can apply for up to $50 towards their grant. That's what the parents, we're a small PAC, and that's what the parents agreed upon as a maximum amount, so that we can maximize how many students actually get an opportunity to apply for one of these. And our student leaders, 3 of them in our room now, they actually developed the questionnaire to decide what questions would be asked. Students then share their grant proposal in front of our student leadership group. And then I'm just finishing up the details on a website where that would go out into a private website to parents who have subscribed, a private web page. And the parents, I think, have a consensus that if 5 parents agree to it, then they can go ahead and just put the grant. So it actually bypasses the teachers and administration, and allows them to go to a grant straight to the parents, but it's only for $50. For other bigger things, we do look at it, and the big fundamental question is, for instance, the incubator. Is this something that will be used in the future to help us decide if that's something we want to do?
That's really cool. Peggy asked, are students selected for the school based on their desire for self-directed learning? What is the criteria for students being accepted at the Inquiry Hub?
It's a interview with the family, parent and children, that and so either Mr. Whiffen or myself has had an interview with every family, and it's a school of choice, meaning we don't have a catchment area. Students have to choose to come to the Inquiry Hub. But it also needs to have a fit, and one of the key themes I think you heard is a self-motivated learner. And oftentimes in a conversation with parents, we get to the point where we recognize that that's not what they really are. Does anyone have any comments on that? Joey?
Going back to before the beginning of the year, I remember having my meeting with Mr. Truss and going through with my mother and father and finding, like, how the year's going to go and what some things are going to happen. And I was just thinking to myself during this whole meeting that this school seems very interesting, and it seemed like something that I would have been really interested in. And the fact that I was brought into a meeting to actually go through is that they were looking at students who they felt could actually do very well in this school. And it was something that I thought was actually pretty cool.
Is there anyone else?
Shauna, and when I did my interview with Mr. Whiffen last year, I think, it was nerve-wracking for me because I thought that you had to have good grades to get into school, and that was not something I had due to my different learning styles. But it really wasn't something we needed. So once he said that, then my second question was, would I be able to do something involving gardening and science? And that's when I think he got interested in what I had to say, and that's where we kind of continued talking about what it would be about. So you need to have some sort of interest or something to motivate you to do what you need to get done.
Okay. More questions?
Yeah, Betty just asked, what characteristics do you look for that would indicate they are self-directed learners?
the interviews are pretty informal, but basically asking students if they have something that they're passionate about and that they are able to focus long periods of time on is one of the areas. You know, it's been a little while since I've done one of these interviews. I'm about to go through a whole series of them again as we look into next year. But for me, basically, what I want to see is that this is someone who is interested in learning. It's really hard. I think we do a lot as far as individual sort of monitoring and support in order to help people improve their skills. I think the students are not. One student is nodding. You know, they get nudges and reminders and so on from teachers. But I think that if you come expecting that you can just learn that and you haven't, it's not at least a little innate in you, I think that it's someone who will have a hard time. It's really easy when talking with a parent and a child together in a room. It tends to be a more honest conversation than if you just had one of them. And I think that that's one of the helpful things is that it's not just a one-on-one interview, but it's sort of a group interview to talk about, you know, what do you see at school versus what do you see at home, and I think one of the key things is that you can't really fake that you're excited about school. So either you are or you're not. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
Well, I know Bonnie and some others had some questions, but this one I'm going to just ask Peggy's right now first. She asked, are the students interested in learning everything at the school, you know, the school offers, or only their self-selected projects that are passion-based?
No, obviously there's going to be some things that we're just not very passionate about. And the great thing about this school is we learn those, we get them, and we move on to things we're passionate about.
It's Shauna, and not everyone has the same mindset as Hannah. The teachers do try, and they notice who's not enjoying a certain subject or who is, and they try to make change it so that people who aren't so interested will get interested. They try and make it more fun, more engaging for us, because I think that's the only way that we here learn. We need to be engaged and actually doing something. So.
I see a great question here. It says the big question from Jenny is, if you could change education for all, what one thing would you do? And I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let the students answer that. So think about that. If you could change education for all, what one thing would you do?
It's Joey, and really seeing how this generation is with the phones and tablets and laptops and everything, I'd make all education more technology based and put a lot of it online, because that's just where we are now. We are in the zone of the internet, and it's something that should be used more often for learning.
I think that everybody should get a chance to learn about what they're really interested in, instead of just sitting in a class really bored about what the teacher is talking about. If inquiry was in more schools, I think that people would learn better and more.
Expanding on what Sophia said about people getting bored sitting in classes sometimes, I know from going up to Dr. Charles' Best every day and sitting in French class for 2 hours can be a little difficult, especially if he's going over something that you've learned a while ago, or it's something that you already understand but he needs going more depth for others. That's where the technology that Joey said really comes in and helps, because here you're in class and doing that, and if you understand it and you're showing the teacher that you understand it, you can move on and work on something else until they move to a different part of the lesson. And that's something that's really nice. Hannah?
Hannah. And I think I would make more individualized programs, so more small schools, so everybody can have a program that works for them, because obviously Inquiry Hub isn't going to work for everyone, just like regular school doesn't work for most people.
Hey, Dave, we have a group from the high school in Wisconsin, and they have a lot of questions about assessment, and Rita's going to take over the mic. Is that okay?
Yep, I just shared your personalization versus differentiation versus individualization. I apologize, I don't have a copy of the newest one. You can share a link to that. But I just wanted to share that because I think for me to answer the question, I think personalization is what we need to see in education. That opportunity for students to connect with their own passions and to really start the education with the learner in mind as the first and key for, that would be my contribution to that answer.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm going to give the mic over to Rita. If she can do that, I'll turn off mine so she can ask you.
I'm wondering if the mic's set up for her.
No, Rita, we can't hear you. Not hearing you yet. So try again. If not, then put your question in again in the chat. They wrote what I can do is look for the question. They asked about assessment. So let me see if I can find it.
I'm looking for it as well.
Well, one of the main things that is, Rita, if you can just talk over me if it comes up. One of the concerns is they're in a public school where we have common assessments now with Common Core, and how could some of this apply? You know, the concern is how do they meet the required standardized tests, you know, that we have in the United States? How could you apply what you're doing there? I mean, I don't know if I'm asking it right, Rita.
I'll put it back in here.
Okay.
I happen to see the questions that Rita has in here. So
okay.
This is her questions. She says, do you have state standards to meet? How do you assess if your students are meeting those standards? And the third question is, what is the project assessed against? I'll be happy to repeat those.
For BC, we have provincial exams as our only standardized tests. And currently there is grade 10 English, math, and science, grade 11 socials, and grade 12 English. And those are the only ones with sort of standardized tests, and for us it's provincial exams. For the grade 10s right now, we try to downplay them. They're only worth 20% of a student's mark. So if you think of it, if a student were to go in and get a 70% instead of a 90% on a test that's only worth 20%, a little bit of math says that that's worth 2% of your overall mark. And so we happen to believe that if students are continually writing, getting feedback on their work, and learning about the curriculum, then we don't really have to worry too much about those tests, that they'll perform well on them. For our assessment of our inquiries, we actually have a rubric, which I'm not going to try and dig it up right now, but I can dig it up for when you have your post as one of the things that we use. But it's heavily based on the rubrics used by the Galileo project in Alberta. So that's the primary place that we got that. So I can't remember the name of the lady that there, but they're just doing amazing work.
Yeah. So Rita, do you have any other questions that that you'd like to ask Dave? You can just put in the chat if you want.
She's changing computers right now.
Yeah, I see it. Yep. Okay.
One of the questions is, do we give traditional grades? We're required to. We're an outside of the box school in the sense of our structure. We don't have block scheduling, which is really unique for a high school. But one of the things that we do is we are giving students their courses that are required, and by mandate, letter grades for grade 9 and percentages for grade 10 through 12. But pieces of that are negotiated. There's a fair bit. I'll let Shauna then Joey talk and continue that.
For our teachers to give us a letter grade or a percentage, we have interviews, and that is where we present our work and how we are doing in that course. We present our 5 gems, as well as we have to submit all of our coursework from our online courses that we have done to online, and then our teachers go back and look through them, and with a interview on us telling them what we know, what we've learned, and them looking through our work to see how much of what we said is true and how much what we said is actually where we are. That's where they come up from the grade. As well as we do have tests and exams in different parts where they just do the testing exams to understand where we are and what we're doing and how we are doing. Joey?
Thank you. Yeah, the way that I see it is that I was already called in for a 6 gems where I had to take 3 pieces of work from English and then 3 pieces of work from socials, and I had to go in through an interview with Mr. Soyseth about how the work is looking, and then what kind of mark should come out of there. And what I was telling him is what we decided on is that the grades, like we decide on what grades is through a discussion that he tells me kind of where I am, and I try to fight my case to see if I can up the grade a little bit more, and we come up with a reasonable grade that we both see is fit. And that's kind of the way that I see the grading is working right now.
And Hannah?
The teachers also get a lot of our grade from the work we do in the Topical Workshops in the morning. And also they get the grade from the work that we've done in inquiry that applies to that course.
You want to ask that question?
So something that I've been thinking about myself is how a university would grade this school versus another high school, and sort of my opinion of what a university would do is that you would have a big assembly of information about interesting things you've done. And in addition to that, you would have your provincial tests that would compare you to another school. So if you really, really want to get into a university, I guess you'd have to do very well on the provincial tests. But in addition to a normal school, we would also have a whole bunch of lists of the interesting things that we'd done that you usually wouldn't be able to do until university, which I think would be a big advantage over another school.
Yeah, and to answer a few questions, we are in year 2, so we don't have a lot of data on how we're doing so far to really compare things. What we and also and for us, it's kind of fascinating to think about how a university is going to look at our school. We've seemed to attracted a few university parents, so I think that there is interest there in what we're doing. One of the I'm just sharing a link to the Green Inquiry website, which the 3 students are just getting started. But as I think it was Hannah that was mentioning, one of the things that they're doing this year is they're working on public education. They're actually trying to develop a manual for how to start a school garden. What's that? Oh, we didn't talk about it. Well, let's have Hannah talk a little bit about that. 1 second.
So this year going forward with the garden is we're all looking, the three of us, Shauna, Sophia, and myself, we're really looking forward to educating younger kids and also just everybody about the urban gardening movement and how you can grow gardens almost anywhere and you don't need a backyard or a front yard to do it. So we were looking into bringing in grade 1 or 2 students into our garden and teaching them about plants and growing them. But we've kind of switched directions. We're hoping to go back to that at some point. But a middle school and an elementary school in our area have asked our expertise and our help in creating their own urban gardens. So we're going to be doing that this year and going into next year as well. And we're going to be creating a manual so other schools can look at that and learn from our experiences and our mistakes.
And I diverged from the question around the universities and stuff because I wanted to share that, right now that Green Inquiry Hub site, shared by those 3 students, has about 1,000 views. But I can see that when they start developing a manual and continue feeding it, I can see that as an incredible resource that not just that they will use, but perhaps other schools will use and learn from. And I think that that's going to be an extremely powerful portfolio piece compared to someone who just has a bunch of A's on a bunch of tests written, standardized or not. So I think it's going to be exciting to see when our grade 9s graduate what that's going to look like. Shauna's tapping me to say something more.
Also, with our blogs, I don't know if this is something my parents are trying to get me to write more on my blog about, so that it can contribute, is my parents say that having our blogs and showing what we've done in high school so far when we go to apply for a university will help us with our chances because they will see what we have and what we have done and kind of get an idea of who we are.
Yeah, and that just reiterates the whole idea of having a living portfolio, which I think a lot of the students over time will really develop here.
I think I was thinking we might want to see if we can get Rita on now. She just wanted to try to ask one question. Can you hear me now?
You might want to turn down your speakers. But not your
Can
mic.
you hear me now? Okay. So what am I talking into? Just right here. Okay. You might want to turn off the speaker.
So this is actually not Rita, this is Pam, and I'm the principal at Verona High School, and I have a group of teachers with me that we're trying to better understand personalized learning. We understand everything that you've said so far, but the part that we're just a little confused about yet, I think pertains more to the teacher. And that is, in Wisconsin, we have state standards to meet. And in project-based learning, if a student starts off with a project idea, they may pick the standards or the skills that they're working towards. And then I assume you can assess to what level they've mastered that standard or skill. So are they just keeping like a general checklist of, okay, this standard or this skill is completed? Because for us, like in a course, let's say geometry, we would be working to ensure that students have mastered a set of standards and skills by the end of that course. If it's not organized by courses, how are you ensuring that and assessing that standards and skills are met?
Well, we still are assessing through courses, and so that's something that like I said, we haven't changed or tried to adapt or do something unique in that respect. Our students from last year can attest to what that looked like when we're trying to track our standards or learning outcomes as we called them, last year in social studies. It was a bit of a disaster, and so we're still on a learning curve on how to do that well. I think is one of the key things that we notice. But for us, we're still looking within courses. What we're trying to do and talking about is how we can reduce the overall load for students, because a lot of subjects overlap, and making sure that when they cover it in one area that we can actually say it's covered in another. We're very excited about BC education and the movement towards competencies as something that is going to remove a lot of the content in our courses, but that's something that it's a moving target for us on how we assess that, and it seems like our teachers are constantly sort of looking at new ways to put things together and to combine. But we're still small enough that teachers talk to each other and share, and when they see that there's overlap, they have discussions with each other about students. And it's quite informal at this point, but we recognize as we grow bigger that we'll have to be a little better.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I'm off. Are there other questions? Pam or Rita?
Are there other questions?
Can I? No, thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, Dave, you did ask, you mentioned competency-based, and that's really, you know, kind of piqued my ears. I think Kathleen probably also. And I think some people are, I see Wes Fryer in here. Hi, Wes. And so anyway, but if there are some other questions, because this has been really a great discussion, and your team there are amazing and very eloquent. Any other questions from anyone?
I just put a link to the BC Ed plan looking at personalized learning. And Sophia's got to go, so she's on her way out. It's the end of our school day, so thanks, Sophia.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you. I mean, really, it'd be fun to watch all the, you know, the projects, and also how they're, what happens through the year, and follow everyone. So it's really nice if you can get all the websites, because that will really be helpful. We'll put them all together on our website, and then link to yours.
Okay. Great. The grade 9s only just got their blogs. I did do a couple presentations. I'll just mention them quickly. One of them was specifically for teachers, and one for parents that I did. So that is, I'll put those links inside the chat. But basically, at this point, I just want to say thanks to my students. And Hannah wants to say something? Or no, just waving at me.
Are they all leaving right now? We just love them. They were wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put, I mean, I don't know, I'd like to applaud, because I think they were fantastic. So if everyone believes, thank you so much. Any other questions before everyone leaves? Nope. Because we have a few more things we wanted to say to our participants. Dave, is there anything else that anyone, Joey, or anyone else would like to say?
No, I think we've had our fill. So.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dave, and all your wonderful learners from the Inquiry Hub.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm gonna let the students here love the echo.
Okay.
I'm gonna let them go because it's the end of their day, and I can stick around and answer any more questions if you like. But I think that's the end of it. So thank you all very much.
Well, we still have one more thing. We would like to thank you.
All right.
And we're going to be putting the website up. Kathleen, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, we've recorded this, and we'll actually be putting this up under our webinar series tab, and we'll definitely be connecting all of the blogs that we've done with Dave and the Inquiry Hub there as well. So, but this recording will be there in the next few days. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank everyone and all the learners there. I know that this is a long day, and we appreciate the time that they've taken to share all their wonderful journeys as they're experiencing them at the Inquiry Hub. But we also want to be able to share with you that we have, this happens to be the second webinar that we've done of this webinar series, and next month we are going to be featuring Kathleen Cushman in the Motivation Equation. And for anyone that has not seen this, this is an unbelievable iBook that you can actually find, the Motivation Equation, if you just do a quick search. So don't miss this. This is a great event, and we've done a wonderful blog with Kathleen Cushman recently, and you can check that out on our website last month. But anyway, we hope that you come back and join us on January 21st for Kathleen Cushman and the Motivation Equation. How about you, Barbara? Anything else?
Well, I'm going to put the slide back just so everyone knows the webinar. People were asking for the link, and Peggy's probably going to help us get this archive, and we'll put it up, and we'll also put all the links that are in the chat in the post. Yep, and Betty just said that Kathleen Cushman's Fires in the Mind, or Minds on Fire, was in article in ASCD, and we were going to actually write about that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dave, you have an amazing group. We had lots of questions. I don't think we asked them all, but really, really love this. This was just wonderful.
Okay. So
I just had an interesting conversation as the kids left, and they were talking about how having learning differences, and how they're often called learning disabilities, and the fact that they were tired of hearing, well, just do less as the solution to having a disability, when for them it's just a learning difference. And so it was kind of neat to have them have that conversation, and it was inspired by Joey seeing the comments from other people that liked Shauna's comment on that.
Yeah, so please share with them that we are all diverse learners in this world. We all have our own challenges and our own strengths, and we're always trying to work from our strengths. And we really appreciate their reflection on learning differences.
Great, thank you.
I wish sometimes we could be a fly on the wall and hear the side conversations you're having.
I know. Well, we'll have to make our way up to the Inquiry Hub one day and check out British Columbia, because we've been following you guys for some time, and we really, really love the work that you're doing there, and we're so happy that you're able to share that with us today.
Betty just said we could do a field trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a field trip. So Dave, please share out an opportunity to come your way, and you may find us there.
Well, that's right. We were talking.
The door's open. Come on down for a visit, or come on up for a visit. Sorry.
So I have to go quite far from New Hampshire, but I would love to go to British Columbia. I have wonderful memories back in the 70s when I traveled for about a month in British Columbia. So.
Well, I think we can probably stop the recording, but we don't have to leave.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. All of this, the conversation, and I love talking to kids.
Right.
So thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.